to interact with the system and actually go about the process of billing the clients. And that's what this is all about. And then going further into the future, I have another problem here with the navigation. Sorry about this. Anyway, I'll skip through most of it because I think most of it has been said. Mobility, social media, somehow the social picture there is missing. Employee interaction as well as social media will become an important part of it. How many of you actually think that social media will impact you beyond being able to recruit from LinkedIn? I guess there are some hands going up, so we'll talk about it as we get into the interactive sessions. And then, of course, the analytics. And then, last but not the least, thank you. Thank you for being a patient audience. Look forward to further interactions.
Thank you, Mr. Shamsundar. Now, may I request all of you to join us for lunch. We'll reassemble at 2:30 for the next session. Thank you.
Back to the session. Post-lunch session, and I'm hoping this is going to be one of the most energetic participations from you, because this is the time when we need your energy to be back on track, and we have our eminent personalities definitely to address all your questions that you have. We'll ensure that we have enough Q&A time this time for the session so that you can ask the questions respectively to the guests that we have for today. May I request Kamal? He is the MD Malaysia, India, looking after the business operations from the Kelly Services perspective. May I kindly request him to introduce the panelists that we have today from you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujita. Good afternoon, all. Before I introduce the panelists, one of the things I had to quote is, one of them actually told me as to how should I introduce you. They said CV is only a reflection of the past and not the future. And all of you have got profiles, so everybody believes that, who's here has been called for a particular reason and they have something to say. So we're not going to spend too much time on the introductions, but I think it's important for me to bring in the perspective of the role they're going to play today afternoon. And from that point of view, I would like to welcome Ram Kumar, who's currently the Executive Director in ICICI Bank. He wears different hats, and all of you know what he does. One of the interesting things I found while looking through tracking him is his blog, theotherview.in, has completed a year, and a lot of things that he actually is going to say, I've found it there as well. So I think that's one part which I thought I should highlight for the day. Murli, as we would like to call him, is the CEO of the Future Human Development Group, which actually, amongst many things, one of the key initiatives that they are doing today is a partner of NSDC, skilling different parts of the country in different skill sets. Murli also has been, a strong proponent of learning. With a lot of organizations, he's built the learning curriculum and continues to be passionate about it. And that's what he'll bring to the table today from the point of view of what does it take to skill a person who's going to take a flexi role, Moving on to Sangeeta. Sangeeta is going to represent the employer point of view. What does it take for employer to look at when he's there as a contract employee? We have different names, that we're going to jargon today and we're going to fiddle with, whether it's a temp, whether it's a flexi worker. One of the organizations I work for wanted to call it deputy because contractor in India is a dirty word, And Sangeeta is going to talk from an employee perspective when he's a temp or a flex worker in an organization. Sangeeta today works for Boston Lab as an HR director, and the perspectives are going to be drawn through her experience with different companies she worked for. She had a long tenure in NIIT, and all those experiences are going to come today when she represents the employer. Everybody knows Dilip. Dilip is today, as you know, heads NSDC. Besides that, the largest skilling project in the world, and we're going to dip into the experience of skilling different kind of people, the real issues that are coming as they get into these programs. But most importantly, I want to highlight that the session in the afternoon is about the guy or the girl who's actually today is subject to a lot of these numbers. When ISF puts out numbers saying we represent 1.7 million workers, somebody in the morning internationally said we put 10 million workers to a job every day. In Indian context, we also talked about flex is it a cool job? We don't know. Siddiqui in the morning said, Ravi Shastri is an interim coach. It's a very sexy thing to be a interim coach in an Indian cricket team, even if they're doing badly. But I would like to be in Ravi Shastri's kind of role every 6 months, if that is called a flexi role, right? So I think we also like to sort of get into elitist mode when we talked about the contractor, the temp, the flex worker. Somebody talked about, can we talk about CFOs, CEOs, the higher side of the pyramid, than the bottom of the pyramid? I think they're easy to say. The subsea engineer is always on a contract, but they're all high-skilled jobs. India is about scale. And in India, how many of us today really think that flexi is cool? Can I show a raise of hands? How many of you really think flexi work is really cool? All of you are from staffing companies, no wonder. So how many of you think otherwise? I think this is another way to look at it, So if you have a change of mind. Actually, Dilip had a question to ask. I want you to ask that question.
So how many of you would actually want to be in a flexi job as it's defined here? Not a flexi job as saying you can work when you want to, but how many of you would actually want to be in a flexi job today?
Besides the permanent job, yes.
Okay. So just by the show of hands, it's 1/3 of the number of people who raised their hand saying flex was cool. Just to actually just put it in perspective.
Thank you, Dilip. I think it's always good to talk through the experiences, and that's what the panelists are here for. I told them, let's not talk theory, let's not talk about concepts, because we have people who understands this business. So we're going to be talking through their experiences and liberate ourselves through the experiences they have. I'll start with mine. 14 years ago when I joined the industry, my first job on the first day my boss gave me was to find secretaries for a vice president in IT services company on a temp role. It was a 6 months contract role. I was to do sales for the company, so they said, you'll get an experience of what is to recruit a secretary. It was a vice president role in 2001. You were getting paid $20,000, which is not cheap at all, And I got a file, and we had about 25 resumes, and I called 25. Half of them said, call me in the evening, half of them during lunch break. So whomsoever who agreed to speak to me, of which I got 5 people who agreed to come for the interview. And next day, I was just, waiting for everything to happen. Nobody turned up, And that was the last day ever I called a candidate for sourcing. My boss said, you better off do sales and put me out of the job. So it wasn't cool then. Then the industry was about, possibly we estimated to be about $100 million in India. Today we say the industry is as big as $7 billion. That is the number that's been put out. It could be an explosion of Indian economy which has resulted in this, not because flexi became cool. And I think after 14 years, the question still is, what we asked today is still flexi cool. And I actually want to start asking Ram Kumar about the socio-economic impact of the person who actually wants to be a worker. How does the society treat somebody who actually goes and says, I got a job, I'm going to be a customer service representative in ICICI Bank, but actually I'm on contract. What happens in that household? What is the socio-economic context of being a flex worker?
First of all, I'm Kamal. After a long time, somebody called me Ram Kumar. My parents call me Ram Kumar, and everybody calls me Ram otherwise, right? So, I really parents and my brothers and sisters are the only people who finally are left calling me Ram Kumar. Otherwise I've become the Ram to everybody. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's only a shortened version of the whole thing. For what was asked of me, let me start with one question which has been in my mind, because I've been in the manufacturing side, and I've been now the last 15 years in the service side of it. We have a distinct thinking that if you're contract worker in manufacturing, there is a separate status in the world, right? If you are a contract worker in the service sector, you're not called a contract worker. So there is another kind of a public perception about this, what is called contract or what we call flexi is what happens. But if you were to speak to both these kids, actually, both of them would say that same thing. The first thing is to say that their parents themselves do not accept that they have a job. That's the first thing. The parents think that they're going for an earning. They continue to ask them, when will you get a job? When will you get a job? So that's the mindset which starts with the parents actually. And these people, when they introduce themselves to other people in their own community, not necessarily a business card has to be given, when you're saying something kind of a thing, most often they have to withhold the information that they are in a contract, and they have to say, I'm working for ICICI. I'm working, they don't tell that I'm working for a as a direct sales agent or a direct marketing agent. So they say, I work for ICICI. Right? No, you can't say that they are lying, but at the end of the day, go behind why the person is saying this kind of a thing. Right? It's an issue of social status. It's the same people who say it's cool, at the end of the day, we don't treat a person when we meet him doing this as it is cool actually. Third, boy or girl, if there is a belief that it becomes very difficult to find a bride or a groom, right? These things in a boardroom, we trivialize it. For all of us senior people who come and, but if you don't sit down and think from that side and say that, oh, it's a joke. It's not a joke. When you're 27, 28 as a girl, or when you're 29, 30 as a boy, it becomes very difficult for you to be able to go and present yourself because the other people, so fundamentally ask this question, what is happening here? Is this only a status issue? No, it is not only a status issue. There is a deep psychological insecurity of instability. Now, ask yourself a question, if somebody tells us that, the very concept of impermanence, it was jocularly said that give me a permanent job, I'll do flexi, but I don't think it is very jocular. Right? We all seek, you want to sleep in the same bed, otherwise you feel uncomfortable. Imagine sleeping in different beds every day. For some of us who do a fairly high traveling job, I want to get back home and I want to sleep in my bed. Right? I want to eat my home food. Right? So if it was so cool, we should like all this. So if a trivial thing like that, you want to sleep in the same bed every day to feel comfortable, imagine the difficulty you will have in your mind to say that at a certain point of a time, you have to work for another employer. You may still not have a break. I'm even coming it, you work for 6 months, 181st day, you still have a job, right? You go to another employer. To go there, settle in there, understand the ecosystem, and to be able to move things there, and irrespective of whatever level I can tell you, even if I am asked to really 6 months, every 6 months, within ICICI, change a job. I'm not even talking about leaving ICICI. I'm in the new role as the head of the CSR right now, in addition to what I'm doing, please remember this. Right? No, why I'm saying it, right? At the end of the day, look at my level, I have to say this. For continuity. In my own mind. It's not for you. For my own mind. It's about 25 days into the job. Right? Am I a productive contributor in the first 25 days in this job with 30 years of experience and being at the board? I'd have to say no. Do I have my insecurities at this point of a time of not doing well in this job? Yes, I have my fears. Not doing well in my job. I'm 53 years old. I've made enough money and I don't have to work anymore in my life. So there are other issues other than only financial security which bothers people when they are shuttled around from one place to other. So I don't know whether flexi is cool or not, but at least to me it is not cool.
Thank you. Only Ram can say the way he says it. Thank you, Ram. So that I don't get a neck sprain, I move from right to left, straight to Dilip, we are trying to juggle between the viewpoint of what happens at an employer place to how we are trying to build an ecosystem of, trying to skill people. A lot of people in the morning, especially, I actually told them what all happened in the morning, So it was very interesting. That's why you saw us in an animated discussion because they disagreed with everything that happened in the morning. They said, why can't people pay more? Will they pay more for skilling? So I bring to the skilling part of it as, if you are skilling, so many million people with so many partner companies that NSDC deals with, what does it take to train people with the